Welcome back to r/justknow HOA stories. In this video, a crazy homeowner association leader just told me I had to give my inherited lake house to her teenage son for free, because she apparently promised it to him. The problem? My house is 20 years older than her HOA and I never joined. When fake fines didn't work, things got real ugly real fast. And the first one is titled HOA neighborhood leader claims my lake house belongs to her spoiled son. So I own a lake property in what is a fairly posh area. I'm not rich or anything like a lot of other people around here though, just lucky. My grandfather bought this house before the entire area went all snooty and fancy. Also, it was before any HOA existed around here. I just happened to find myself inheriting a property in an area that underwent a huge tax bracket shift. To be just a little bit more specific about the property predating the HOA, it was not by a day or two, that could be argued. It was over 20 years older than the HOA for those who really want to be exact, and as many of you here already know, when a home is grandfathered in, that means even a mandatory HOA cannot force me to join or comply with their stuff. I would have hated myself if I actually joined them once I moved in and offered. It was not due to hearing horror stories, I could just see how everyone came from money and I just felt like I would have been an outsider. So instead, I did not join and remained, well, okay, kind of an outsider anyway. Now, taking the HOA and everything within it out of the picture for a moment, living on the lake is wonderful. Maybe it's just that I enjoy watching the water and how it moves, but I love my home. Back into reality now, the HOA's crappiness peaks at the neighborhood leader, or maybe I should say queen of the neighborhood, because she sure acts like she is the queen of the area. Honestly, I could imagine this woman as one of those crazy ancient queens wanting to just chop off the heads of everybody that disagreed with her. The only person that I know her to be nice to is her own son, a nearly 18-year-old boy that has spent his life being spoiled beyond rotten. Usually, I give kids a pass knowing that they have a crazy mom, but by 18, I feel like the leeway has passed. He should know how to be a person and not just a spoiled a-hole. The trouble I got into all started the day that the neighborhood leader randomly approached me. I was caught bringing grocery bags into my house, and like the stupid prey I was, I just stood there. Her: I need to speak to you about this house. Me: what about it? Her: it was promised to my son when he turned 18. That's only in a few months. I was stunned to say the least. I knew that the only person that might have promised her son my house was her. Something that she shouldn't have done for obvious reasons. I couldn't even get out words, but she just kept going and going. The short version of what she was rambling about was claiming that it was part of the HOA community rules. How it could possibly be in the rules to steal homes, I couldn't even figure out by her own made-up logic. She could not even come up with a better lie. I finally found my voice again and said, this house is private property. And by the way, even if it wasn't, no HOA rules would apply to me. She left with the final words being that she didn't believe me. Didn't believe what? How homes work? Even just writing this now, I cannot believe a person could be that far removed from anything. She started sending me official HOA fines that I knew she made herself. It was all for nonsense. Any little thing that she could think of, she was giving me a fine for. Two of my favorites were that I was being fined for my door knocker being the wrong color. I don't have a door knocker. And the other, she was complaining the grass in my backyard was too wet. You know, the grass that was wet due to the fact that a lake was right there. After a while, I was getting tired of her crap and sent her a certified legal letter. I hired a lawyer who sent her a cease and desist letter, and I also filed a police report documenting this harassment pattern. Basically, the letter said to stop and that I was not within the HOA jurisdiction and she could not fine me for things. The police report established a paper trail in case things escalated even further. The neighborhood leader must have stock in stamps or something, because I just kept getting letters coming from her. Now they were more directly from her and not under the stupid HOA disguise. The official HOA letter had stopped appearing, so she started sending threats under her own name instead. These letters all demanded either that I transfer the ownership and property deeds to her son's name, or I could send her money so that he could buy a new house. I don't think I would have ever said in the past I would be okay for segregation, but can we send these types of people to an island where they can have a battle royale? or get stuck into an endless loop of asking each other for a manager that doesn't exist. Yeah guys, maybe a PUBG island filled with Karens. That sounds like a good idea. It was around now that I started to get really serious about keeping notes on everything. I saved almost all the letters that she had sent me before, and then she hired a few local guys to try and intimidate me into doing what she wanted. Honestly, I think they were about her son's age, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were his friends. I didn't see them this first time though, I just noticed that my entire property had gotten trashed while I was gone. Trash was dumped on my lawn, the mailbox was smashed in with what was probably a bat, and there was spray paint all over my sidewalk. Weirdly, not on my actual house. Thinking back now, they were probably told not to damage the actual house, since the end goal was for the neighborhood's leader's son to get it. Getting a house that was half destroyed probably was not the best idea. That didn't make the damage they did any better though. I documented all the damage with photos and filed an insurance claim, though my deductible meant I ended up paying most of the repair costs myself. It took me a long time to get all the paint off of my sidewalk. Not to mention buying a new mailbox after far too long of me thinking that I could fix the old one. I'm just stubborn. The most annoying thing was the trash though, because it was a little windy and trash would fly, so I was basically picking it up one piece at a time. I'm sure there was a better way, but I was stressed and not thinking, so I ended up doing it probably the dumbest way possible. Feel free to laugh at me for this, I kinda deserve it. I installed some no trespassing signs onto my lawn, and I also own a shotgun that is registered. I don't enjoy violence, and it's the kind of thing I would only use as a last resort. I just knew that further trouble was coming, and if it was another escalation, the gun might be needed. Late one night, I heard noises outside the house and looked out my bedroom window. That is when I saw what appeared to be teenage vandals on my property again. One was holding something, but I couldn't tell if it was a bat or some kind of weapon. I went outside with my gun just to be safe and maybe help scare them off for good. I stepped outside and verbally warned them to get off of my property. It was dark, so I knew they couldn't see that I was holding a weapon. Instead, they started yelling back at me insults and that I should go back inside before I got myself hurt. My eyes adjusted to the dark a little, and that was when I could see how young they were. Plus the insults were very high schoolish, if that makes any sense to you. A lot of calling me names and that kind of thing. One even started telling me that he had a bat and if he was me, he wouldn't want to get any closer. And I mean, they were big guys, maybe athletes, so a swing from that bat could easily break a bone. I turned on my porch light so they could fully see me now. I adjusted the gun a little bit and suddenly the taunts stopped. I called out, "This is private property and you need to leave immediately." When they saw I was armed, they quickly realized they were outmatched and that this was not just some helpless old guy they could push around. They were just frozen from the moment they saw I had the gun. It was kind of funny because of how tough they were being a literal minute ago. I guess logic finally hit them that running would be a good idea. They started to scramble for the car and were driving down the street in less than a minute from when they started running. I want to reiterate though that the gun was pointed at the ground with the safety on this entire time. I would never point the gun at something not armed or not trying to attack me or anything. I feel like that's just part of being a responsible gun owner, so if anyone was hoping I was gonna shoot these guys, you might be a little bit sick. The good part was that I must have scared them so badly, they refused to come back, and went back to the neighborhood leader telling her how I had a gun. She realized it was not possible to intimidate me into getting what she wanted. Plus, lying to me about fake rules also was not gonna work. Lies and threats basically the only tools a person like this has that she can use. While the vandalism stopped, I still occasionally get dirty looks from her and keep my security cameras running just in case. After her talking to me nearly every day to bother me about the property, I was now getting the silent treatment most of the time. I couldn't have been happier. However, I heard some small rumors going around after that. Most of them are over-dramatized and not true, and one even claiming that the neighborhood leader and I were pointing guns at each other at one point. Like, this is real life, not some weird western movie. Her son obviously did not get my house and he was not saying anything about it either. I was just glad to enjoy peace again. I was on edge for a while that she might do something else, but the major harassment ended up stopping, so I really believe that she finally understood the situation. I still got a folder with all the letters just in case she tries to do something else and I need evidence against her. For now though, I'm just happy with the way things turned out, that I didn't need to sue her or get anybody else involved beyond the initial police report and lawyer consultation. And yeah guys, if you still enjoy these crazy HOA stories, please don't forget to like the video and click that new hype button if you want to support me. And the next one is a crazy story from r/bestofreddit, and it is titled "Woman has come forward claiming her child is my half-brother to try to get a part of my father's estate despite the fact it is impossible." So what can I do to make this woman go away or pay for this stunt? So here's the situation. My father passed about 2 months ago from natural causes and left everything he owned to me and my sister. His estate is worth over $5 million, with almost half of that in liquid assets. His estate is still being split up now, not because of me and sis that are fighting or anything. The two of us are just working together to see who wants what and figuring out what to do with the rest. But that is not even the issue here. About a week ago, a woman that we will call Stupid BITCH, SB for short, contacted my father's estate attorney, claiming that she had a secret child with him and demanded he get a third of the estate. I've never met this woman or even knew that she existed until then, but apparently she's the daughter of someone my dad went to high school with, so it's not out of the question at first. But here's the thing, my dad was diagnosed with testicular cancer 15 years ago and had both of his testicles removed. So unless this kid is at least 14, then it's impossible it is his. So entertaining the thought that I met with SB and was surprised to find out this secret child is 9 years old and looks nothing like my father. During this meeting, she demanded her child's share of my dad's estate and wants 9 years of child support in cash. She claimed she would sue if he was not added into the will. My dad's estate lawyer said that if SB's kid passed a DNA test, he would bust. She refused. She claims she has a secret letter from my father acknowledging that this kid is his own, but refused to provide it. The meeting ended with my father's estate lawyer telling her to pretty much get out until she's ready to do a DNA test and her claiming she would see us in court. It's pretty obvious this is not my dad's kid, but SB is still trying to take from us. My question is what I can do to make her go away. What kind of legal action can I take to make her disappear from my life? And yeah guys, if you would be in this situation, what would you have done? 9 years of child support in cash, that's a pretty crazy demand. Let me know what you would do in the comments. If she does try to take legal action against me and my sister, what can I do to make sure this Karen gets what she deserves? Comment number 1 said, let your lawyer handle it. Ask him to send her a letter telling her she is not to contact you at all, but only him when she is ready to take a DNA test. If she does contact you, he will deem it harassment and pursue your legal remedies, then block her from contacting you. OP responded by saying, attorney said just don't respond or tell her anything until she takes a DNA test or goes away. If she sues the estate, we'll take care of it. Update, seeing as the last post I made got popular, I thought I would come back and give an update. As much as I wish this ended dramatically with SD getting arrested or embarrassed in court, I'm sad to say this is not the case. So after I sent SD the text telling her to stop contacting me, she began to blow up my phone with voicemails and texts. I saved them all obviously and forwarded them to my father's attorney. The day after I made my first post, my attorney had a letter sent to SD. Won't post a letter here, but I will paraphrase to the best of my ability while trying to interpret all the legal talk. It said, if you believe your child's claim to my client's estate is legitimate, please submit a DNA test as your earliest convenience. If an independent DNA test confirms your claims of my client's paternity to your child, we will see to having him compensated as according to local laws for the requested child support. On the claim of getting a portion of the estate, my client specified in his will that his estate would be left to his children and sister unless you are able to provide the letter of recognition as you stated in my office on the 22nd. We will consider that your child was either disowned or unacknowledged by my client and will proceed as such. If you're unable to provide the claimed letter, I advise you seek legal counsel of your own. On the topic of you continued contact with my client's benefactors, I suggest you cease it immediately. They've made it clear that they don't wish to associate with you outside of legal dealings. If you continue to contact them, I have recommended they take legal action against you. The best part has to be how he ended it, however. If there's the possibility that your claims of my client's paternity to your child are misinformed or fraudulent, I suggest you admit to this and cease contact with me and my clients. If you continue these actions under false claims, not only will you be receiving a bill for my time, I will suggest that my clients take legal action against you. While this was going on, my sister tracked down SB's parents and got into contact with them. It turns out that SB has not had contact with her parents in multiple years, but this is not the important part. So apparently this is not the first time she has done this. Apparently she has pulled the same stunt with another man when this kid was born 9 years ago and got paid off to leave him alone. I also forwarded this to my attorney, so fast forward to this morning when I get a call from my attorney. SB is retracting her statements, claiming she misunderstood the situation and no longer believes her son is my father's kid. So yeah, no big dramatic ending sadly, but I guess this is over. Thanks for the advice originally. I know some people were asking why I came here when I already had an attorney, and to be honest, I see where you guys are coming from. I was pretty stressed, and with this woman trying to steal what my father had worked his whole life for, I really just needed a place to vent and look for advice on what I should do. Thanks for that. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. This story is titled, I killed the HOA president after he stole my house. Okay, just to start things off, it was not actually me that killed the HOA president, but instead one of my neighbors. His name was Greg. And this event shook everybody that was living in the area at the time. Greg lived here even before I did, but it must have been an HOA neighborhood for a long time, because when I bought my house there was a mandatory sign-in for it. Greg was also a member of the HOA, but we had one of those pretty relaxed HOAs that collected fees and really did not do anything. They adopted the do-nothing method sometimes found in politics, where there's technically a governing body, but it can be easy to forget. Like, who can even remember who was on the last election ballot for something like school board director? In about 2003, the HOA president stepped down, and a lot of other board members took that opportunity to leave as well. We got not only almost all new people, but a whole new attitude that they came with. The new president decided that everything was a little too relaxed and needed some serious structure. Honestly, the way he spoke, you would think that the streets were filled with drugs and gangs, when it was in reality just a pretty generic place. People went to work, kids went to school, etc. Boring might be a good word to describe how things were. What the president was actually talking about was that HOA rules were not that strictly enforced, and unless somebody was gonna try and do something crazy, they mostly let it slide. My best parallel for this would be like somebody jaywalking. Technically illegal, but usually you are not gonna get stopped and given a ticket for it. This new guy decided every small infraction was a problem and started going through the book and passing out fines to nearly everybody. Even I got one for the paint on my front door being a little cracked and not maintaining a proper home. I forgot exactly what I did, but I know that I did repaint the door. If I ended up needing to pay the fine, it's something I cannot remember. Most people were like me and didn't want to fight about small things and instead just appeased them to keep the HOA off our back. We all were under the assumption that he was just trying to act big and would calm down after a few months in the position. That did not exactly happen though, but I will get more on the crazy things he did a little bit later, because I feel like I've rambled long enough without even talking about the main guy of the story, Greg. We lived in the South, and a good chunk of us would be considered redneck by other standards. We owned guns, went a little crazy during football season, etc. And Greg might have been the textbook match to that kind of life, and it was clear to anybody talking to him. He was friendly enough, it was just clear that he was in a bad mood more than good and did not really want to socialize with anybody. I learned way after the events of this story that his wife had passed away, so he honestly may have been depressed. It would fit in with the way he was maintaining his home, in the sense that he really was not doing it. Not the worst you can imagine, but it was clearly the worst on the block just by driving down the street. He had one of his gutters broken and kind of hanging down from his roof for starters. Not to mention the entire house needed a paint job and he had a covering on part of the roof where I assume some roof tiles were just missing. His grass was not overgrown exactly, but he had a lot of dead patches all over the place. It did not look good, but nobody really cared that lived there. We just knew that was Greg and he was a messy and not very well put together guy. Like, at every family reunion there is that one uncle or cousin that drinks way too much and makes things uncomfortable. But actually does not mean any harm to anybody. That was the Greg that everybody knew, and most that we even knew about him. You can guess how the HOA president felt about how he was keeping his house and yard looking. Knowing this guy, my guess was Greg got an individual fine for everything and told you, make it to the standards of the HOA. I did notice that his gutter got fixed and it seemed like some seats got put down on the yard. I know the fines did not get paid because I could hear Greg and the HOA president screaming at each other one day out in the street. Greg, I told you that I'm not paying these stupid fines. I fixed the problem and that should be the end of it. You cannot tell me what to do with my own property. HOA, this neighborhood is for everybody, and nobody wants to pass by and see your garbage dump of a home. Greg, now you're calling it a garbage dump? You think you can just stroll in here and do anything you want without people getting mad, huh? HOA person, listen, this is a nice neighborhood and I won't let you stay here and treat it like a trailer park. If you want to live that way, then maybe you should move and let somebody who will actually care about the property move in instead. Now, I did not hear how this fight started, but from what I knew about Greg, he really did not start things usually. It was clear he made an effort, and if I'm being honest, I doubt he could even afford to pay the fines that this guy was giving him. The economy got hit hard here around that time, and while we were not poor, most of us did not have a ton of extra money to throw around. For the next few weeks, Greg was rambling on to anybody who would listen how the HOA was trying to screw him over. And honestly, with what the HOA was doing in response, it really did look and feel like somebody was just out to get him. He was getting fined for the same things every single day, and each day the cost of the fines was going up. Sometimes sadly allowed and not against the HOA's ability, but just an overall dick move. The biggest example of how it wasn't fair was his yard. He did put down seed, but was still getting fined and told it would add up until the seed actually resulted in grass and the dead spots were covered. Now that is just ridiculous because he did everything he could on his end and the HOA knew that. And even further, he was getting fines for not paying his fines and that he just did not have the money for. It was clear to everyone that this guy wanted Greg gone and was gonna try and bully him out. I had a front row seat across the street every single time the two of them would be yelling at each other. Half the time, new things were cropping up that the HOA had issues with even if they couldn't fine him for it. A lot of people have targets set up for practice, and as long as they are not facing other homes or anything, it was allowed. Not using actual guns though, you would need to use something like a BB gun or an airsoft kind of thing. Despite me knowing damn well half the people living here had those kind of things, I could hear him yelling at Greg specifically that he had to take them down. That shooting was gonna scare people and cause a mass panic. Meanwhile, again here in the south, hearing a gunshot is not worrying to anybody. We are so desensitized to it that I swear our brains can just ignore it. The HOA does not have a lot of power beyond giving fines, but they have a big one if you're not paying them. They went too far in everybody's opinion, that instead of trying to work with Greg, they just put a lien on his house. They wanted him to pay like $40,000 all up front in order to stop his house going up for auction. It was horrible. Nobody would have been able to pay that off in one go, but they refused to work with him or give any other options. The HOA just wanted him gone, and I would not be surprised if this was their plan the entire time. They also did some other nasty crap to Greg before the house went to auction and he was still living in it. They were claiming that it was HOA property now and he did not have the right to park his pickup truck in the driveway and had to park it out in the street. Even getting it towed away at one point and Greg needing to spend 2 days finding it and getting it back. As for the house, Greg did try and stop the HOA from taking it and even got a lawyer to try and sue them or force them to stop what they were doing. But the HOA technically was not doing anything illegal or wrong, they were just very mean. Before the house was sold and Greg had to move out, I heard one last fight outside. Greg, you stole my effing house! Don't tell me to calm down! HOA, well, if you bothered to follow the rules and act like a good member of society, it wouldn't have happened. You had chances to pay us back, but instead you ignored it. Greg, you're the biggest piece of crap that has ever stepped foot in this place. HOA, if there was any crap here, it would probably be on your stupid lawn. You belong in a trailer park with the other drunk idiots. It was a lot of cursing and shouting on both ends, and then the gunshot happened. And then another one. At first nobody knew what happened, but somebody must have called the cops because the place started to swarm with cop cars and ambulances. I ran to the window but couldn't see much of anything, and police then started showing up. Everybody started going outside to try and get a look at what happened. I couldn't see anything, but another neighbor said that she saw Greg getting put into the back of a police car. We were all just extremely confused and concerned about what happened, because while gunshots were not uncommon, an actual shooting was. And keep in mind, this was 2003, meaning it was not so simple to go online and try to find an arrest report. We were just going by word of mouth until we could get some kind of official statement released. That night on the local news, I got a little more information on what happened. During their heated argument about Greg's house being taken away from him, Greg pulled out a gun and shot the HOA president twice. And during the news report, it was revealed that by the time they got him to the hospital, he was dead. Greg had actually killed the HOA president and was now gonna be on trial for murder. Since nothing ever happened in this town, it was the main focal point and everybody was talking about it. Some people were going around and calling Greg crazy, while others were saying that he was in the right and the HOA person shouldn't have taken his house away from him. Every single person had an opinion in theory. Just when it would die down, another news report or trial date would be revealed. And then it would start everything up again. Every piece of the trial was big news and zeroed in on. Some details are a little fuzzy now in my memory, but some will probably be with me the rest of my life. Instead of pleading guilty and accepting a prison sentence, Greg wanted to fight the charge in court, claiming that he was defending himself and his property. The main part of his side of the trial was that the HOA president had stolen his house and he was just trying to defend himself and his land. That he was just at home minding his own business when the HOA president came over and started demanding to be let in to do an inspection and some measuring. Greg tried to deny entry, and that was when all the fighting and shouting started. Greg claimed that the president pushed him and was trying to force his way into the home. And that was when he pulled out his gun and shot him in defense. And where we live, there are laws that allow you to defend yourself and your home from people trying to break into it. This is what he was trying to take advantage of, but it just did not work or apply to his case. The HOA had a right to inspect the property and was not breaking into his home, since it really was not his anymore. It was set to go up for auction already, and he was refusing to move out of it. The one thing that we read about him saying in court was the one that made the headlines and basically broke his case. After being asked numerous questions on the stand, he finally broke down and admitted that he shot him for revenge. He said that he was mad his house got stolen and shot the HOA president because he deserved it. Greg was found guilty by the jury and given a life sentence in prison for murder. Now the HOA had another board member step up as president, and once the trial was over, they were able to finally put the house up for auction. There was a new problem now in the fact that nobody wanted to buy the house. It was now being called the murder house despite the fight happening outside. An HOA board member ended up buying it for cheap in the hopes of flipping it and selling it for big money. When people would come and look at the house, they would always want to do their own little research on it, and when looking into the address, they would always learn what happened and lose interest in the house. It was frustrating for the HOA, but honestly a little funny for the rest of us watching, wondering and taking bets on when and if anybody would move into the house. I think it might have been our little way of coping with the situation, instead of needing to think about the guy we saw on a daily basis being currently in prison and knowing that he would die there. Either way, killing the HOA president to me is one of the most nuclear revenges you can do. Taking down somebody else knowing that it might end in you going to prison forever. Edit, people were asking if anybody ever bought the house since it's been about 20 years. And well, I moved from the neighborhood for unrelated reasons in 2011, so I cannot speak for current day. I do know that nobody was living in the property until about 2006. Which was not too bad considering how long it was before it could even be auctioned. From when I was still living there between 2006 and 2011, I saw 3 different people move into the home. From that point, in addition to it being named the murder house, people started saying that it was cursed too. I just tried to look into the owner history online, but don't see the address as even existing anymore. I think somebody split the property, built 2 houses and got new house numbers for both of them. So the murder house is now gone. Another edit. People keep asking me what happened to Greg and I really don't have an answer. I cannot remember his last name anymore and I don't think I ever knew what prison he was sent to. I just know he's either still in prison or dead at this point. Also, people are asking me how the HOA got away with taking his home and not getting in trouble once the trial happened. I know Greg was saying that they stole it, but they were within their rights to put a lien on it for lack of payment. They were being absolute jerks about the entire thing, no doubt, but did not do anything too illegal. And yeah guys, let me know what you think about this story in the comments, and especially what you think about nuclear revenge stories. I think every once in a while they are pretty interesting, but usually they are too hardcore for me, to be honest with you. And the next one is a funny petty revenge story that is brand new. It is titled Loud Music at 2 AM. I found the perfect way to shut her up. So when I was in college, I had this neighbor in the dorms named Sarah. Sarah was not evil, just loud. Every night she would blast music at 1 or 2 AM, usually when I had an early class. No matter how many times people asked her to turn it down, she would laugh it off and say, "Relax, it's college." One night before a big exam, I was desperate for sleep. I knocked on her door around midnight and asked politely if she could lower the volume just a little. She smirked and said, "Sure," and then cranked it even louder. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling, absolutely fuming. The next morning after my exam, I decided I was not gonna let it slide. Sarah was notorious for sleeping in late, usually until noon, and she hated mornings more than anything, so for the next week I set my alarm for 6:30 AM sharp, right when the hall was dead quiet, and placed my Bluetooth speaker against a thin wall that we shared. I blasted the cheesiest pop songs I could find, think bubblegum boy bands from the early 2000s. The first day she stumbled out of her room, groggy and furious. By day 3, she started begging me to stop. I just smiled and said, "Relax, it is college." Funnily enough, after that week, her late-night concerts mysteriously stopped. She never admitted defeat, but the silence was golden. And yeah guys, thank you for watching. I will see you again tomorrow. And please don't forget to check out my playlist on the left if you cannot get enough of my content.